talk is moment problems, decomposition, and applications. Okay. So I will talk about moment problems and giving some examples which are related to what we do, but not necessarily. So here is an example, guessing sequences. So you are given some values. You want to guess what is the value n from these numbers. So I give you here an example: 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. So you guess what is the next one? 21. Very good. So you recognize here Fibonacci sequence. So U and n plus 1 is equal to, or sigma k plus 2 is equal to sigma k plus 1 plus sigma k. So what we do when we have this sequence of numbers, we look at in fact the recurrence relation which connect the values like this one, and from this we associate the polynomial x squared minus x minus 1. We compute the roots, and then we have an expression of the sequence that we guess here, the sigma n, in this form, which is involving here the golden number. So this is classical. Another example, we have a signal here, which is a superposition of sine and cosine with some frequency ui here and some terms also. So this function is a sum, a weighted sum of exponentials, and we want to recover what are these terms. So this is also classical, and it goes back to Prony more than 200 years ago. So he proposed to the following: evaluate the function f on a grid, so at 0, 1, 2, and so on. Get these values sigma 0, sigma 1, sigma k. So construct a matrix where you put, so you get there are frequencies here. So you put all values from sigma 0 to sigma r, then sigma 1 to sigma r plus 1, and so on. You get this rectangular matrix, compute the kernel. This gives some coefficient of a polynomial p. So p0, p1, pr. In fact, these pi are the coefficient of a recurrence relation, which occurs on the terms here, and you compute the roots. And from the roots, you take the log of the roots, and you get the frequencies which are, and then you solve the coefficients by solving this linear system. Another example where we have this value, these moments, in fact, we call these moments, sigma I are moments here. So it's in polynomial optimization. We have polynomials f, an objective function, g, I are constraints defining a set, the algebraic set, and we want to optimize f on this set S. So we look either as the supremum of constants such that f minus lambda is positive, or the probability measures which minimize the integral of. So we have here the convex cone of non-negative polynomials which appears there, but there we have the convex cone of measures supported on S, and these measures, they are described by their moments. So you know all this very well. We have this sequence of moments mu alpha, which we use to find the minimum. And so to make this effective, there is a Nasser relaxation, which consists to replace positive polynomials by sum of squares and measures by sequence of moments, say positive moments, which are dual to the dual cone to the sum of squares or quadratic module generated by the. And moreover, there is a truncation of this in a fixed degree to have finite dimensional vector spaces and convex. So what we get with this technique is an optimal moment sequence, sigma star, which is a collection of moments, sigma alpha, for alpha, say, of degree less than t, the truncation, the degree of truncation, which is the solution of this convex optimization problem or semi-definite program. And this is used to check, for instance, that if the minimum, the global minimum is reached, one can do it on the moment sequence by checking the flat extension property. Recovering the minimizers is also done from the moment matrix, the moment sequence, so building a moment matrix. And in fact, describing the moment sequence in terms of a measure, the moments of a measure. The measure here is, most cases, it's a weighted sum of Dirac measures, which is written here. So sum of omega I, this is say, the Dirac at Ci, or we see the evaluation. Another example, here we have Bob, Alice, and Bob who are talking, and but they are not only. They are not. There are other people talking. Maybe Charlie here, and some other people we don't know, and we want to know how many sources are, how many speakers are there, how many sources for the signal we receive, and so Eve, who is listening in different places here, is getting some observation X depending on the time. And this observation is a superposition of the different sources. So it's a relation like that. So H is supposed to be constant because here it's a fixed position for the speakers. And S is are the sources. So the question here is to solve, knowing X is to solve find S and H, which is a bit challenging. But this is done assuming the sources are independent and independent. And so what is done to recover this system and solution is to compute tensor or with coefficients which are some average of the measures which are done in different places. So this is one measure, x1, x2. So we have here an expectation of this product. These are in fact moments. They are put together in a symmetric tensor, where the coefficient here is exactly this expectation, this observation, this average of observation.
So Bernard, this tensor is the moment matrix?
So this tensor, we'll see that it's related to the moments of a measure, yes.
But isn't it directly the moment matrix?
No, it's not a matrix, but it's a moment sequence related to the moment. And so the question we have when we do look at this problem is, well, we apply tensor decomposition techniques to recover the edge, in fact. So being able to decompose the tensor, which is here, this multivariate polynomial, homogeneous polynomial, as the sum of powers of these linear forms, give, in fact, the columns of the matrix H. But here again, it's moments which are involved. So I want to see these moments are as defining a linear functional. So a linear functional on the polynomials, and this is also classical. So some notation, we have polynomials depending on the one xn n variables, and we have this. Oops, there is some typo. So p alpha x to the alpha. This notation. So we have now the dual of this space, which is R star, and an element of the dual is a linear functional from R to K. So K here is the field, like the field of real numbers or complex numbers. And the coefficient sigma, so this linear functional applied to x alpha is called sigma alpha. It's the moment of sigma. So we use this terminology. The coefficient in the dual basis, in fact, of the monomial basis of an element of a linear functional is a moment. Some examples of linear functionals. So one of them is the evaluation at a point. A very nice, very simple linear functional. We have the integral against the measure of so here I have some notation problems of a polynomial. This is also a linear functional. So if we take well, the measure which is we define it on the compact. This is the structure as the dual of the vector space of polynomials, linear functionals. But the polynomials have a structure of algebra, so we can multiply them. And then this corresponds to some operation on the dual, which is a transpose of the multiplication, which is defined in this way. So we have a way to multiply a polynomial with a linear functional by this formula, which is here. And a very simple exercise, when we multiply P with the evaluation, we find the value of P at the point times the evaluation. So linear functionals, we can see them as sequence of moments, as said. So we just define the value of the linear functional of the monomials, and by linearity we have the linear functionals. So in terms of coefficients, we have for instance P star sigma, this product, the sum of P alpha sigma of alpha plus beta, or we look at the coefficient beta. So this is the product that you have seen, the correlation product in signal analysis or function analysis. So we can associate them to a series, these linear functionals, in a natural way. So given all this sequence of coefficients, alpha, we put them into a series, which is the sum of sigma alpha y alpha over alpha factorial. This definition here. And this gives a series which is a formal power series. So we don't care about the convergence, but just to formally represent the object, we consider it as a set. There is the possibility to use it to avoid this alpha factorial notation and put sigma alpha z alpha. So this is also used, but less interesting from the analysis point of view. Here, alpha factorial, we have a multi-index alpha, which is alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n. Alpha factorial means the product here of the alpha I factorial. Okay. And now what is nice with this representation is that the evaluation as a series is simply the exponential. So the correspondence with the evaluation and the series, we obtain the exponential. If we use the z variable, so the y will be for this correspondence and the z for this one. If we use the z variable, you see it's also some nice form, but it's well, nice, less nice, I would say. This one is well suited for the operation we do in analysis, and but it works for characteristic 0. So if we have a field which is of characteristic different from 0, we have a problem to define. So that's why this is used in this case. Okay, so the nice thing with this notation is that so now y alpha, we have to understand it as an element of the formal power series. So that is an element on the dual. So when we apply the y alpha on P, so what do we get? We get, in fact, a derivation of P alpha times with respect to x, so P is a polynomial x, evaluated at 0. This is just the Taylor coefficient of the P. And the structure of our module here of multiplication by the x is also nice. When we multiply P with sigma, this is like taking the derivations with respect to replacing the variables by derivation and applying it to y. So we derivate with respect to the y variable. Inside this formal power series, we have series which can be represented in a sparse way. They are the sum of this exponential or times a polynomial. They are polynomial exponential series. And if we look at them in terms of say linear functionals or measures, linear functionals, they correspond to finite sum of Dirac measures. So the Dirac measure is associated here, or derivatives of Dirac. And here we are living in the space of distribution. So it's not really measures, but distribution. Okay. And the weight, the polynomial weight, which is here, is in fact giving the distribution order, the derivation order. Yes, so now from this sequence, we can read matrices, moment matrices, and they are related to these Hankel operators. And Hankel operator is simply taking the product with a linear functional. So we have a polynomial, and we take P times sigma. This gives an operator which is going from the polynomial to the dual. And here we take M linear functionals and take the product. All this, and so we get a vector of linear functionals. And we can truncate this on some vector spaces and get finite matrices. So for that, we can specify what are the elements indexing the rows and columns of the matrix. And then when the matrix will be the application of sigma at the product of the two elements indexing the row and the column. So this is like sigma applied to x alpha times x beta. If we have the rows indexed by the x alpha monomials and the columns indexed by the x beta. That is the coefficient sigma alpha plus beta of our series. Example with m equal 1 and sigma is this sequence, Fibonacci sequence. We take b to be 1x x squared. So what we will have is a product of 1x x squared with the monomials 1x x squared. So the first one will be 1 times 1, that is sigma of 0, and this is 0. Then we will have sigma of x times 1, so this will be sigma 1, and so on. So we find here the matrix, the Hankel matrix, the moment matrix associated to this B here. Okay, and then some algebra. When we have this Hankel operator, we can look at the kernel, and the kernel is in fact an ideal, which is stable by multiplication. This can be verified easily. When we have an ideal, we can take the quotient by this ideal, and we have a quotient algebra that we denote A sigma. And in fact, the structure of sigma is reflected in the structure of A. And it's dual. So the example here, Fibonacci sequence, we have this Hankel operator, which is with these blocks that we have seen. And if we look at the kernel, we can see, for instance, that this kernel contains a vector of the form 0, -1, -1, 1. You can check for the columns. So in terms of polynomials, because we have monomials here indexing the columns. So in terms of polynomials, this means that the ideal, the kernel is the ideal generated by x squared -1 minus x minus 1. The polynomial which coefficients are -1, -1, 1 in the basis 1x. If we take the quotient by this x squared minus x minus 1, we have a basis 1x, and we can look at the multiplication by x in this quotient. So we have 0, 1, -1, -1. We can check. So when we multiply 1 by x, we get x, that is 0, 1, the basis 1x. And x we multiply by x squared, but x squared is equal to, yes, there is an error, the plus. So it's equal to x plus 1, so it should be 1, 1. Yeah. And now the eigenvalues are the roots of this polynomial, and they are these golden numbers that we have seen before. And moreover, the eigenvectors, they correspond to interpolation polynomials at the root. They are this very special form. So from this, we can recover, in fact, the decomposition we have seen before for the value of sigma n. In fact, you can observe that if we use these eigenvectors as basis for to express matrix H here, we will find, so the first block will be with this 1 over square root of 5 minus 1 over square root of 5. That are the coefficients in this formula here. Yeah, this coefficient. Okay, so that's the basis to decompose Hankel operators of finite rank. So I recall here theorem of Kronecker, which gives the form for the Hankel operators of rank R. So they correspond to sequence or linear functionals, moment sequence or linear functionals, which can be written in this form. They are a polynomial in Y times the evaluation at some complex roots. So the exponential series here at complex root Ci, such that the degree of this omega I plus 1, when we sum all these degrees, we get R, which is the rank. So it's a very general form for this rank R operator. And we have a generalized Kronecker theorem in the multivariate case, which is saying if this Hankel operator here is of rank R, then the sigma, say we have just one sigma I here, sigma 1. Sigma can be written as a polynomial exponential series with some omega j here times this exponential part. And moreover, we know what is the relation with the rank, the sense that if we take the vector space spanned by this polynomial and all its derivatives, we compute the dimension of this space. So we take the polynomial, all the derivatives at first order, second order, and so on, all possible derivatives. Take the span of these derivatives, take the dimension. We have a mu omega, which is this multiplicity. We take the sum of these multiplicities, and this gives the rank of the Hankel operator. So in the case, we have one variable and a polynomial of degree d. The space spanned by the polynomial and its derivatives is d plus 1. So this gives a Kronecker theorem in here. So you see the degree plus 1. Okay, so we can look at this, exploit this analysis in a very general framework. So different context, right? So what this framework is where we are given a functional space F, so where the functions or the finial is living. We have some commuting operators, S linear operators operating on F, so they commute. And we have a linear functional on F. So given a function, associate a number. And this is a linear operation. So we call it delta. And now what we can do with this is build a generating series, which is the sum of us all S alpha. So S alpha is we take S1 to the power alpha 1, S2 to the power alpha 2, composed to Sn to the power alpha n. We apply it to H, so we have an element in F, and then we apply delta on it, and we get a scalar. And this is the coefficient of the series which is here. So what what we have is that this series is of finite rank. This the Hankel operator of this series is of finite rank. Then the series can be decomposed in the polynomial exponential. It's an element of the polynomial exponential series, sparse series. And the coefficients omega ij, which appear, and the points cij, which appear, they can be related to the eigenfunctions and generalized eigenfunctions of this operator Sj. In particular, the points will be associated to the eigenvalues. So the coordinates will be the eigenvalues of the operators Sj. And when we have coefficients which are not constant but are polynomials, then we have to look at generalized eigenfunctions which are defined in a similar way. So they are these eigenfunctions. They are so when we apply Sj on them, we find a multiple of the function plus some multiples of the previous functions associated to this eigenvalue. And this gives the generating series omega I here, the polynomial of some degree, and the degree is related to these coefficients here. So this can be applied in different contexts. For instance, sparse interpolation of polylog functions, where we have polynomials and log terms. And there we can take, for instance, the Sj to be the multiplication of the coordinate j by lambda j. So we multiply xj, we scale xj. And we can take delta to be just the evaluation at the point 1, 1, 1, 1. And then the eigenvalues are, the eigenfunctions are simply the monomials, and the generalized eigenfunctions are the log times the monomial. And so when we have this finite rank for the generating series, we deduce that the function is some sparse sum of log exponential of log monomial terms. Another example is when we use Fourier coefficients, and then we have, and the space is a space of distribution, and then we have this eigen function which are the Dirac or the derivatives of Dirac, and can recover the decomposition as the weighted sum of Diracs. Okay, so this is if we have this shows that decomposing here could be interesting, and so how can we do it? We use the structure of the quotient algebra A. So we assume there that the quotient has a dimension R, and we are able to find in this Hankel matrix or moment matrix, we are able to find some bases B and C, or well, some sets B and C of polynomials of size R, such that the block indexed by the matrix by the polynomials B and C is invertible. So then we know that B is the basis of the quotient, and they are also very. We can also deduce the multiplication. What is the multiplication by xi in the basis B of A? It's simply given by this relation. In fact, we look at B, multiply all the elements of B by xi, and look at the moment matrix indexed by these terms, and multiply by the inverse of the block indexed by B and C, because we have this relation where mi here is the multiplication by xi modulo, well, in the quotient function. We also have that the common eigenvectors of these matrices or the transpose will be, in fact, the evaluation at of the basis B at some points Ci, which will be involved in the decomposition of the sigma. So in the particular case where sigma is a weighted sum of these exponentials or Dirac's or evaluation, we have that so sigma is this sum with R terms. The rank of H is equal to R, and the multiplicity here of the points is 1. So it means that we have this coefficient omega I here, which are constant. So this gives the multiplicity 1. Or if we look at the zeros of the kernel of the Hankel operator, they are also 1. Back to this this idea. And moreover, in this case, the common eigenvectors of this mi correspond to the interpolation polynomial at the root, which is very nice because if we have the polynomial, the interpolation polynomial, we have somehow the root. They satisfy this relation of interpolation. And in the special case where we are dealing with sigma, which is coming from an optimization problem, that is an element which is in the dual of the quadratic module. We also know that the kernel of this Hankel operator, or the moment matrix, is in fact a real radical ideal. And moreover, when sigma is generic in this set, this cone, LG, the kernel is in fact the real radical of the support of the quadratic module. So, and this gives the decomposition. So yes, just to give an example, if G is plus or minus x squared times x squared plus 1, the kernel of this operator will be for generic sigma will be defined by x, because we remove the complex roots and the multiplicities. So this gives the decomposition. And so we have this algorithm to compute, which we can use to compute the decomposition. We take the moment matrix H sigma indexed by A prime A second, compute an SVD decomposition of this matrix and get U, the factors U, S, and V. Deduce from this decomposition bases, which are not necessarily monomials, but maybe say orthogonal vectors in this space of polynomials. B and B prime, such that the block indexed by associated to B prime and B is invertible, and of size the number of the rank here. And then compute the tables of multiplication, the eigenvectors, and deduce the points and the weight. So yes, here it's essentially computing eigenvectors and recovering directly the decomposition. So it can be used in practice and give some interesting results. So now we are looking at this sparse interpolation problem in or Prony, but in the multivariate setting. So we have this function h, which is the sum of exponential terms. There are four terms here. You see the f are given here by the rows of this matrix. We have f1 and f2, and they are complex numbers. And the weights are here also complex or real. So what we have seen is that we can do sampling on a grid, apply this technique to the values, the moment sigma ij, which are h of I over 50, j over 170. Do this evaluation, get from this B a matrix which is of this, well, which has these SVDs, these angular values. And then from this eigen computation, we recover the frequency. So this is the actual computation with some errors. And you see that we can recover quite reasonably well the frequency. So for instance, this one, minus 2.4999 and so on, is the last corresponding to the last group. So the error is reasonable. Another example coming from optimization. So it's in the package Moment Tools, co-developed with Lorenzo. We are optimizing Robinson polynomial on the sphere. So here is this function which transforms the problem into a moment problem, optimization problem. So we use the relaxation order 5, and then we have this magic function get measure, which is doing this computation at this value, and it gives the weights for the point C of the decomposition. So the get measure is going from the moment matrix and computing this eigenvalue. And we get these points, which are the minimizers of our problem. Well, here there are 4, but the others with some sign changes. And all these 20 minimizers, they are recovered by the function. And now, about what you were asking, Didier, tensor decomposition. So, and the connection with the moments. So we look at the symmetric tensor, which is given by, so it can be seen as an homogeneous polynomial of degree D, some degree D, in variable x0 is 1 cell. So we have here this new x0. We write it in this way. So sigma alpha, a coefficient, and the binomial coefficient d alpha times the monomial x alpha. So all these monomials are of degree D. And we want to decompose it as a sum of powers of linear forms in a minimal way. And this defines the rank of the tensor C, which is here. So we will see it as a moment problem, in fact. So for that, we will look at it as a linear functional. So instead of taking this as a symmetric tensor, we look at the dual, somehow the dual of the tensor. And to define a dual, we need a dual product. And this is given by this apolar product defined here, which has, so you see you have these binomial coefficients which appear in the computation, but it's defined, well, it's almost a L2 product, Killian product, classical product, but here with some binomial coefficient. So that we have this property that when we take the product of f with the power of a linear form, we get the value, the evaluation of f at the coefficient, at the point associated to the coefficient of the linear. And so given a psi, which is a symmetric tensor, we can look at its dual, which is simply taking the product, the polar product with a psi. And this defines a linear functional. And now the question is, and what is this property saying is that the dual of the power of a linear form corresponds to the evaluation at the point. So the problem of decomposing the tensor as a weighted sum of powers reduces to decomposing the linear functional as a weighted sum of Dirac. So and so I write here the explicit correspondence if you want. So the psi, which is a tensor sigma alpha binomial coefficient d alpha x alpha, it's in the affine setting. So we assume we replace x0 by 1, and we assume that the first coefficient here in this linear form is different from 0, so we can divide by it and rescale. So we have this this decomposition for this tensor. That's what we want to find. So in terms of moments, we have a linear functional. It means that this linear functional is a weighted sum of evaluation at some points, or Dirac measure. So the sigma alpha that we have, the coefficient are the moments of this linear function. So just to illustrate, symmetric tensor decomposition coming from some problem of where we have here a degree 4 polynomial with say 3 variables, homogeneous in 3 variables, but in fact in dimension 2. So when we will substitute x0 by 1, so it's a 2-dimensional problem. We look at the moment matrix in degree 2, which is this, and the coefficients are coming from the coefficient of the symmetric tensor. Here we can recognize -1, -2, which is -8 divided by 4, and so on, -6, which is -24 divided by 4, etc. So we divide by this binomial coefficient and put this coefficient in this matrix. Extract a block which is of a max of rank 3. So this is a blue block. Shift by x1. This is a the green block, and shift by x2. We have the red block. We have these matrices which are just obtained by shifting, which correspond to multiply by say, the monomials indexing the elements indexing the columns by x1. So for instance, so if x0 is 1, now we multiply by x1. So the first column here will be the one indexed by x1. So the first column of this matrix will be the one here corresponding to x1. And then compute this block B0 and inverse time, for instance, B2, we get M2 multiplication by x2, compute the eigenvectors. There are the interpolation polynomials. We express the matrix in these bases and find the decomposition. Okay, so this is the technique used. So I mentioned here another example where it's applied to this is the joint work with Rima Pooja. PhD. So we want to decompose a distribution of points, of vectors, as a weighted sum of Gaussian distribution. So we have this distribution around a mean for one Gaussian, like here, so some points distributed here, some other points distributed here, and some other here. And we observe all this and want to find what are the mean of this Gaussian distribution and what are the variance and the weight of this distribution, which explains the size or the number of points that we observe here. So for that, we transform it into in fact, a tensor decomposition problem with this result, which is saying that if we take moments of order 3, or moments of order 2, or even of order 1, we have a tensor which decomposes as a sum of R terms. The terms are related to the number of Gaussian we have in the Gaussian distribution we have in this distribution. So the coefficient of the linear forms which appear in this decomposition, they are the mean of the different distributions, so the mu k. The weight of the decomposition corresponds to the weight of the mixture here. And so applying this technique of symmetric tensor decomposition, we are able to find some the structure of this mixture of Gaussians, which are, I should say, they are spherical. So it's not, it doesn't apply for any Gaussian distribution. They are spherical with some covariance sigma. Okay, and yeah, I want to. So this is the last slide, which is not finished, but I want to say that in practice there are also other problems which are well. There is a problem that, in fact, that the tensor we have, or the sequence of moments we have, is not exactly the sum of the weighted sum of evaluations, but it's close to such weighted. And there is this problem of finding this low rank decomposition, which is well, somehow important in practice, because it will give, for instance, for the optimization problem, it will give the measure which is close to the linear functional we have obtained. And so being able to do this decomposition and finding this closest measure somehow has some important application in this area, and it's not direct, so it's not a simple problem. So what was tried is to we tried to, in fact, solve this problem by solving another optimization problem, which is minimizing the distance between the moment sequence we have, C star here, and the sum of the weighted sum of evaluation at some point xi that we know approximately or that we don't know exactly. And there are some for this problem, it's possible to describe some Newton-Riemannian techniques where the gradient association of this function is computed explicitly in terms of the points, and then to do a retraction operation So retraction on the variety we are interested in. So this variety is second of the Veronese variety from a geometric point of view. This retraction is done by SVD decomposition of these Hankel matrices that we have seen. So it's a second order method which with local quadratic convergence. And we also have look at some Gauss-Newton Riemann operations where say order one, working well. And so I'm missing my last slide is thank you for your attention. And if you have questions, they are welcome. So, on the chat, maybe I can see. Well, yes.
Can I ask?
Yeah, sure.
Two questions. The first on the mixture of Gaussian measures. Why cannot you also estimate the covariances?
Yeah, yes. So yes.
I mean, for non-spherical Gaussian measures, what is the difficulty?
Yeah.
Why is it restricted to spherical Gaussians only?
So this formula, this theorem, Sue and Kakeli, assume the covariance is spherical. It means that the matrix sigma k here is a diagonal matrix with the same quantity on the element. If it's not the case, there is no nice decomposition like that. So I don't know. Maybe there are, but well, it seems to be a bit gated. But yes, it's not so simple to get this decomposition of this special tensor, you see, which is obtained by some explicit transformation of the third order moment, to get the tensor which decomposes as in this way. But you will have some mixed terms.
To find the parameters, you need the three moments, up to degree 3. Or?
Yeah. The orders, the moments of order 2 are not sufficient because well, even if we have this decomposition for matrices, there is not a unique decomposition.
Oh yeah. You need the third moment to be correlated to the second and first ones.
Exactly. So for the third moment, we have a unique decomposition.
Yeah.
And then,
but that's also true for non-spherical measures, but then you don't have nice formulas like that.
Exactly.
That's what you say.
Yeah, the point is that there is no transformation directly or simply in terms of the moment, the tensor problem with the rank, well, the tensor decomposition problem.
Thank you. Yeah. And my second question is about this polylog functions, slide 18, I guess.
Yes.
18. 1,
1.
18.
18. Yes. Yes.
Yes. So polylog functions. So there is one set of variables which is x, and another set of variables which is log x. These functions.
Well, the function decomposes as a sum of few terms, r terms, and each term, some terms, and these terms are the form log of beta, log to the power beta of x times some monomial x gun.
So you can view it as a function of two sets of variables, namely x and log x, but they are related.
Yes, it is a possibility.
But they are not algebraically related.
No. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, since you're relying on algebra exclusively in your computations, how would that differ from a bivariate polynomial in two sets of independent variables, since the relation between these two sets of variables is transcendental, you cannot capture it algebraically.
Well, so what is done is to have so we start with a function of this form, and then we associate with a generating series, which is obtained by this transformation we have seen. So we scale the variables by lambda j, and then we evaluate this at 0.11. So we get coefficients, and these coefficients now, if we look at say the algebraic structure which is behind, we see that there are some so eigenvectors. This is purely algebraic. We don't go to the transcendental functions. So these correspond, these eigenvectors. In fact, they correspond to non algebraic functions like the log. So we analyze this and we see that these are generalized eigenfunctions. There are some functions with some multiplicity. So the multiplicity here of the roots in our algebraic setting will give the term in the log. And we don't need to go to the space of F. We look at it through the filter of generating cells. And there it's all algebraic. And the same for the volume coefficient. Okay. So maybe there are questions. I cannot see the chat.
Yeah.
No question. Then we can ask if there are no other questions. We can stop here. Thank you for your attention. We have now the lunch break.